The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
Hey, you're back.
I'm back.
You've been globetrotting.
A couple places, yeah. Europe and Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah, and while you've been off doing that, the world's been going crazier.
Yeah, it got really crazy during the week. Like the first couple days we were out in Kauai.
Yeah.
Whole Charlie Kirk thing really dominated, even out there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because guess what I wanted to talk about?
Charlie Kirk?
Yes. For reference, I was vaguely familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, man's a skilled debater. He's very patient. He's metered. He will let anybody come up to the mic and say whatever the fuck they want, and he will sit there and try to talk through with them. Very orderly. Let's find some common ground. Okay, now we have this in common. So if I say this, can you think that? Like, to me, my past watchings of his videos were not like, oh, he just pwned that noob. I was never like, oh, look at that leftist get smoked. No, it's always been respectful and very calm. I've never seen him lose his shit.
Good point. Yeah, I don't think I can recall it either. I've seen him stymied, but I don't think I've seen him lose his shit, as you say.
Yeah, and I never found him to be arrogant, but I know it's difficult when someone speaks assertively and confidently with a high level of eloquence and intelligence to not find them a tad arrogant if you yourself are subconsciously triggered by their ability to talk damn near anybody down. Now, I know he's very reviled by many, and as soon as he was shot, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We were at work, and I got a text like, Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck. I'm like, fuck, what? And then the news started coming across, and then immediately I work with someone who does not care for him, we'll say.
Okay.
And was kind of happy. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, well, he's a bad person. I'm like, why is he a bad person? This is a younger person. It's a Gen Z.
Okay.
They say things sometimes. The arguments don't seem to be well thought out because the vigor of youth causes you to go, ha ha ha, or oh, way too fast because you haven't had the years of experience and wisdom gained from it to take a breath and think bigger picture immediately. Like, when Charlie Kirk got shot, I'm like, here's why that's not a good thing. He's like, well, what? I'm like, who has more guns? The right or the left? The right. And many of them are pro-NRA, which is in and of itself a big supporter of the Republican Party.
Yep.
They're kind of attached butt to penis. I'm like, so if this were to become inflammatory towards greater action, the smart money is on somebody from the right going all pew-pew crazy over this, but also, this is an attack on free speech. This is somebody like, hey, how dare you say the things that you say? I find them offensive to varying reasons, and I'm choosing to end your life rather than try to be one of those people that approach the microphone. And it hit me really hard because it scares me. When something of this magnitude takes place in our society, I can only imagine what it was like when Martin Luther King was killed, when JFK was shot, when they attempted to kill Reagan, Malcolm X. When very famous political figures are assassinated, it tends to cause more action, and it has the possibility of becoming on a grand scale with, say, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, World War I.
Yep, I got you.
Right, and we're right here on the precipice of what many people are always afraid of, World War III. We've got a president that just seems to, I swear to God, jack off to the launch codes while looking in the mirror. And it's scary because you're never going to know if one of these happenstances or assassinations are going to galvanize a certain fan base or segment of society, and then shit's going to pop off.
Sure.
Now, I was sad also because I respected Charlie Kirk the most because of his intelligence. I feel like our country has gotten dumber to all get out. And nobody has the patience or the temperament for gray area debate. And so many people use black and white thinking and jump to conclusions and just get triggered and fucking foam at the mouth.
Absolutely.
And I have said for years that the best way to make a friend is to go head to head with your enemy. Now, I've had people in my life that did not like me right away. And we butted heads or we got into fist fights. And then we got all that ugliness out of the way. Have you ever done that? You ever gotten in a fist fight with somebody that ended up friends?
One time in like 6th grade.
Okay, so once you get all the negativity and the ugliness out of the way, once you sit there and do battle over your differences, what's left? Your similarities. Now it's, okay, we've got all that dipshit testosterone caveman instinct out of the way. Let's fucking talk. Oh, holy shit. You know, I feel bad, you feel bad. I'm sorry, you're sorry. And we come together. And that was Charlie Kirk's approach. I hate that I have seen tons of people celebrating his death. You can say, I didn't like his politics, but to be like, ha ha ha, he's dead. Or, hey, if you think Charlie Kirk getting shot is funny, I think you're cool, let's be friends. Or, you get what you deserve. If you put out hate, you get hate back. And I have spent every day since his murder just digesting video after video after video because I'm looking for proof that he's the racist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic piece of shit that they say he is. And I'm not finding it. I will sit there and say that the same way that a gay person approaches a microphone and tells Charlie Kirk, and this is a college student, I'm gay and I'm Republican and I'm not sure where I fit in because I know with like your conservative beliefs, it's not necessarily eye to eye. He's like, well, I can tell you this. I welcome you to the Conservative Party. I'm glad to have you. Your sexual orientation doesn't bother me. Now, I don't agree with it because of my faith views, but that doesn't mean that I devalue you as a person. So there's a video where he straight up is cordial, recognizes this man's homosexuality, says that's okay, I don't agree with it, but I don't devalue you as a person.
Sure. And that's great for Charlie Kirk's opinion to have. Maybe he is a new age Republican, right? A new age Christian that is more tolerant when it comes to that thing. The thing I think what scares a lot of people is gay marriage was only legalized, what, 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago? Was it 2011?
Let's ask Professor Google.
It hasn't been enshrined that long. I think people are worried that fact that Charlie represents a side that a majority maybe still believe that it's a sin or that the government made a mistake, right? Or that these people shouldn't have the same rights as traditional married couples do. You know, they're still a big part of the side that Charlie is on. And I think that's where a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon maybe in celebration is because of the side that Charlie represented. Not necessarily did they take the time to listen to Charlie? Did they take the time to watch enough videos of Kirk? You know, maybe they only heard some of the few talking points and they instantly disregarded everything else he had to say. Yeah. I think it was more a representation of what Kirk is than so much himself.
Going back to what you said, gay marriage or marriage equality was made legal throughout the U.S. on June 26th of 2015. It was originally in May of 2012. Obama publicly announced his support for the same-sex marriage.
So that's where I'm kind of getting my dates confused. So it's only been 10 years.
Yeah.
So 10 years. And I think, and I'm not saying that gay supporters or gay rights people were celebrating. I'm not trying to conflate anything like that either. I'm just saying that going back to originally what my point was is that Kirk's represented a side, I think, where some people still feel threatened by a lot of the traditional conservative views.
Well, and it's the us versus them, opposite sides of the political spectrum extreme that we're caught up in. And so many people want to say I'm a centrist, but I only hear left and right, and maybe that's the media trying to play us against one another. But I just want to point towards all the times that, like they brought up he said that he was for the stoning of gay people. No, he was not.
Okay.
He didn't advocate for the stoning of gays. Despite the fact that it went against his conservative Christian beliefs, he was not anti-gay like that. He wasn't calling for gays to be rounded up and exterminated or anything of that nature. It's just that he pointed out how Miss Rachel, who is a TV character with her own show for kids, was talking about using a Bible verse to celebrate Pride Month. And he's like, well, there's the verse you got there, but in a chapter before that, just so you know, they're calling when a man is with a man, an abomination against God, and calling for them to be stoned.
Sure.
So there's that. He's pointing out the dichotomy between the two, but he's not in any way celebrating the notion of killing gay people. So anyone that calls him a fucking homophobe for that, you got to let that go. You can say that I'm okay with gay people and not be okay with the lifestyle. It's just a form of emotional maturity where you let people live their own lives without letting your belief system dictate how they're able to be governed or what freedoms they have. And yes, I'm going to admit to you that he says that the Bible is God's perfect law, that seeing marriage between a man and a woman is God's idea of marriage. Well, that just is part of the belief system. And it might seem relatively intolerant if you're a leftist and you're non-religious, but you can believe that marriage is between a man and a woman and not call for the extermination of gays. Like there's a middle part where it's like, I'm not okay with that, but, live and let live.
The stoning of death of a man who lays with another man and calls it God's perfect law in kind of the same breath, I think you can somehow some people would jump to that connection, right? I mean, that's in this day and age, that's a pretty easy leap, I think, for a lot of people. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean? I think that's where it gets muddy, right? That's where some people could say, no, he does. And like you're saying, no,
I'm telling you that I don't believe because that came out and I'm like, bullshit. Bullshit did he say that? Mm-hmm. And I went and I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked and Stephen King reacted to it. And then Stephen King got fucking curb stomped with the truth bomb about what really was said and how it was satirical.
Yep.
He's like, oh, that's what I get for not fact checking before I quote Twitter. Like, again, video after video where people will say, I'm gay, I'm this, I'm that. And he's respectful towards them. Another thing they say, he's racist. Why do they say he's racist? Because he's against affirmative action.
Oh, okay.
And just like Charlie Kirk believes, I also subscribe to the mindset that it was created for a reason. We've kind of outpaced its usefulness. There's so many more avenues and opportunities available to Black Americans now. It did what it did to diversify the workforce. But let's get back now to a meritocracy where we got the top, we got the cream of the crop, and your skin color doesn't matter. And that's the biggest thing that gets lost in translation when they bring up that racism thing about Charlie Kirk is no matter how many times he said this on tape, it's like they don't fucking hear it. He's like, I believe that you should be judged for the content of your character, not the color of your skin. Where did I get that? Martin Luther King Jr. in his I Have a Dream speech. He talks about his kids, and I feel the same way about everybody. No matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter to me. I think the concept of racism is stupid because we talk about race so much. Another thing he rails against is DEI. He calls it didn't earn it, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about that.
Sure.
But it's kind of the same thing where certain companies and certain hiring initiatives happen where they're looking for more women and more minorities. And yes, I get why, because you want the workforce at large to be more representative of the diverse makeup of our nation. But at the same time, we're doing that at the behest of picking all the people with the highest test scores. And let's say you had to hire 5 people, and of the top 25, the top 5 are white, and they didn't get the jobs because you wanted more Asians, more Mexicans, more blacks, and more women, and then they got the jobs, and then you're not taking the people that have the most qualifications. And again, I get it's a slippery slope because you're also like, well, how do you know what their qualifications are going to be? Test scores, GPAs, pre-employment exams, interviews, the way they carry themselves. It's just, Charlie was about America being number one, and the only way we get to be number one or stay number one is by having the very best of the best. And that in and of itself is not saying that white people are better or black people are inferior or women can't be as good as men. He's just saying the best of the best. If it happens to be black, Asian, Latino, female, male, white, gay, straight, trans, non-trans, if you're the best, you're the best. And that's that. I don't want to just get into this pissy debate about DEI because that's a whole nother episode in and of itself. But I'm going to say this right now. I admire his mindset because, yes, I want the best of the best. And I don't care what color your skin is. And I don't care what your orientation is. And I don't care what your gender identity is. If you're the best of the best, then we get the best. That's the way that I was raised in America. It's a meritocracy. You try hard. The payoff is you get what you were looking for, as opposed to suddenly now in society more often than not, they're looking for diversity hires and people argue about that and it just causes more separation. And I just think that there's nothing that I can do that a black person can't do with the same set of circumstances. If you're poor, you might not be able to get the same opportunities as I did growing up middle class. There's socioeconomic hurdles. But if you bust your ass, you can overcome all of that shit.
Yeah.
Relatively in America. If you apply yourself, that's the American dream, is you try hard, you can achieve your dreams. Point being, I'm the same thing that you are. We're all Americans in this country. We're all equal, despite what you believe or have been told to believe. And Charlie Kirk himself emphasized that notion. And to bring it back more towards like Charlie Kirk's beliefs from what I've gotten from watching his videos, he will sit there all day long and say that racism is ugly. He's not against anybody for their color of their skin. He loves everybody the same. He thinks that they were all created equal in God's eyes. So it's like you're crying racism at him, and the views he's expressing are not espousing that. There's no white supremacy in it.
Fair enough.
So let's dissect the next one. He's a misogynist. If you point out that women have advantages based upon their gender in terms of the courts and with divorce and with custody and getting assistance and the way that society will prop up a woman, but they won't do that for a man because we're supposed to bury our fucking feelings and put our nose down and get back to work.
True.
And nobody gives a shit about us. But you look at the suicide rate of men is greater, and the failure rate financially of men after divorce is greater, and who goes off to war and dies more? It's men. Not traditionally. Women weren't allowed to sign up to the military as much.
They couldn't serve in active combat up until even recently. Can they in some branches? I don't even know if they can in some branches yet.
I'm going to say that nobody's telling them they can't show up because they got a pussy, but still the point remains that the man is saying men are getting a bad rap just because some men in the past did shitty things. Oh, now it's like nobody cares about men. I've said that same shit.
I've said the exact same words about our child support system and court system here, especially in this state. Yeah, it is, for being progressive, it is very backwards.
Now, if you want to call it suspect that he talks about women being subservient, he doesn't say they need to be subservient. He's not one of those guys. But what he does say that if you're a woman and you marry a man and he wants to have kids and you want to have kids and you have kids and he makes enough money so that you don't have to work, stay home, take care of the house, take care of the children, embrace that role, and he will support you. Let him be the man and you can be the woman. But if the woman needs to work, the woman can work. And there's kids coming to all these fucking different summits that he does and all these change my mind opportunities where he speaks, and he's telling me, like, many of you come from homes where women were made to work because they had to work, and if you don't have to work and your husband's okay with it, then stay home. It doesn't make you any less of a partner or anything like that. It just means that you're embracing a traditional role, and that's okay. Nobody should be looking down upon you for that or talking bad about it.
He seems like a nice guy.
His wife takes care of the kids because he works and makes enough money that she doesn't have to. She's not his slave. He doesn't lock her in her closet. She doesn't have to do his bidding. She doesn't fucking cater to his every beck and whim. Like, get over that shit. So the next one, he's a transphobe. And I'll show you something.
Okay.
I haven't watched all of it. I've watched most of it twice. This is Charlie Kirk on debate night with Buck Angel. Do you know who Buck Angel is?
Sounds like a porn star.
It was.
I remember right.
It was.
Yeah.
Buck was a lady. Don't know the dead name or the birth name.
Okay.
And then at a certain point in life decided, I don't feel like a lady. I think I'm a man.
Yeah.
And Buck himself says, I was the first person in California to start undergoing testosterone treatment.
Really?
Yeah, decades ago.
That was 90s. Yeah, I was gonna, or something like that. Okay, because that's why it goes way back.
Yeah, top surgery.
Okay.
No bottom surgery. Still as a pussy.
Oh.
Buck is talking with Charlie about being transsexual and the trans community and trans culture in America. And he's saying all the things that you would want someone to say if you were trying to compromise in the middle of the issue. Live and let live. Be who you are. Recognize there's an element to the mental health aspect that needs to be dealt with before you go all willy-nilly and let the social contagion tell every little girl that is a tomboy she's a boy. Or effeminate boys that, oh, you're really a girl, you should be a girl. Like, he's against kids doing this, but totally for adults doing this. Also,
sure,
you should talk about detransitioning more so people know the dangers. And that the people that go through it and then decide no, every child that is being taught this, I won't use words like groomed or indoctrinated, I think that's silly.
Right.
Every child that's taught about this needs to hear both sides of the argument. And to hide information about detransitioning is to not do justice for these kids that are questioning. But despite the physical representation of what he is now, there's no misgivings about the science and the biology and who he was.
Right.
Buck is yoked like you and I wish we were.
Yeah, I
jacked.
do remember seeing him.
Fucking crazy.
Yep.
But says things like, I will always biologically be a woman, but I identify and feel as a man. Is that not the compromise that I have been fucking talking about when I approach the concept or the topic of trans people in America?
Well, right, but why is there such a big problem with it, though?
Because trans people are like, accept us for who we are, and don't you dare say that there's anything wrong with transitioning. Don't talk about detransitioning. They froth at the mouth because you're not supposed to talk about the science at all, or else you're anti-trans. The leftmost of the left, of people that are pro-trans, will be like, believe all trans kids, and don't ever tell somebody no, don't talk about detransitioning. They try to stigmatize the sensible side of the argument that brings us together in the middle.
Why the arguments then back and forth between the right and left, or the right in the trans community, when it sounds like this is a failure of our medical industry, right? Like, shouldn't that be part of the information that you are given or that you should receive during this process, or when you decide that you're going to go through this process?
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some type of psychological evaluation, right? You have to, right? It can't get to
used
the
to
point
be
where
a lot harder.
where we just like, we'll make everything super easy, right? Well, no, that's not what we should do when it comes to, this is a big change, right? I don't think anybody would argue that this is a big change in somebody's life, and therefore deserves a lot of information, a lot of understanding, and a lot of awareness of what the possible side effects, outcomes, like you said, detransitioning, if there's regret or decide it's not for them, like maybe this was not the change that they thought they needed. That to me sounds like a failure in our medical community, right?
In terms of checks and balances?
If there's a high rate of people who are just detransitioning, which I don't know what would be considered a high rate, 5%, 10%, 20%.
You don't hear about it because it's almost become a dirty word.
And that shouldn't be the case. There should be nothing that's not discussable when it comes to these things, right? When people start setting things that are off limits, how do you expect there to be any progress made? How do you expect there to be anything getting better? If you have things that are off limits to talk about, then there's not going to be any healing. It has to be discussed.
I saw nothing but respect and veneration on both sides of that table during that video on YouTube.
Right. And
so how are you going to call him a fucking transphobe? He's not saying kill the trans people. Let's get rid of all the transes. He's saying that kids probably shouldn't be allowed to do this, and that if doctors are keeping secrets from parents by letting kids sign up for shit on their own and seek out these treatments without being properly medically vetted by a mental health professional, that you're doing a great disservice. How the fuck is that transphobic, and how the fuck is that too far intolerant? It's not. You're saying, hey, let's do this the intelligent way, the safe way, the sensible way. It's not all or none.
Right. And I've got a parallel for you as well on the
on.
other side. And this isn't meant to be a left versus right thing. This was just I see a lot of parallels with these things in our society today when it comes to other topics. And another one is straight up guns in the NRA.
Yeah.
You try to do anything that imposes any type of legislation on any kind of a stock or trigger or anything like that, and you're anti-gun, right? You're anti-Second Amendment. And that, like, we can't have these all or nothing type sides when it comes to certain things. Same with the trans community. I don't want to sit there and speak from my soapbox or from my podium, but being so stringent and strict is not going to help you.
Society loves to, and especially the younger portions of society, love to slap these negative labels on people that disagree with them. And it's almost just like, again, they don't realize they're making a straw man argument. Like, oh, you don't believe what I believe, you're this. That's name calling. That's how fucking children handle things.
That's how Trump handles everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, like, my only big beef with Charlie Kirk is that he was pro-Trump. Well, and funny, the timing of his death, September 10th, the day before September 11th.
Oh, yeah.
And shortly after he made a video, or he was on a video, saying, let's release all the Epstein files. If, Mr. President, you have nothing to hide, why are we not releasing this? And it's like, that's when the conspiracy theorist in me is like, he must have said the wrong thing and went too far, and maybe somebody in a high position of power had him clipped. Wink, wink, Trump, wink. We got all this heat on the Epstein birthday book. We need something. We need something to unify the right that are starting to splinter against Trump. What better than to possibly do a CIA hit on one of our own?
It's great that you brought that up because that was ironic. You know, I'd seen literally the pictures from the book the night before, and then the next day you hear about him getting shot. And just like anybody else who has a little bit of conspiracy theory in their head, right? You wonder, was this the right taking out one of their own again? Or you know what I mean? Or
I've said that I thought that the assassination attempt by the semi-autistic kid with the fucked up face that identified as kind of gay or got something like that.
With the ultra conservative in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but you got the photo op of Trump with the fist in the air.
Yep.
The cameras were right there. Somebody ushered the cameraman there to get the shot for some reason. He had the blood in his ear, but his ear is untouched. This kid gets offed, bullet through the scope somehow, and we never hear anything else about it. Why did it go away so fast? What the fuck? And again, the next day after Charlie gets shot, 9/11. What better way to galvanize your fan base than Charlie's a martyr. They're coming after us. We need to unite. Shut up about Epstein. We need to unite. Please don't ask me anymore about Epstein. Why are we still talking about this creep? Why are we talking about this guy that I totally Eiffel Towered a 17-year-old with and we high-fived? Why are we talking about this? He's a dirty pervert. I threw him out of Mar-a-Lago because he was trying to steal my Mexican waitresses.
My underage Mexican waitresses, yes.
So everything about this made me sad because he was an intellectual. And he was, joking aside, relating to one of the most recent episodes of South Park where Cartman did his version of it, a master debater.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. We were laughing at that one.
Again, the man was a Christian. I don't really like Christianity. I think it's intolerant. But Charlie is like, I love you the way God loves you. I might not agree with everything you do, but we're all the same in God's eyes. I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't more of the evangelical nutcases be like this shit?
Yeah, they sound
middle of the road, tempered.
He sounds like a pastor. He sounds like a lot of pastors. Right?
Doesn't he sound like a fucking good guy? For the most part. If you don't agree with his politics, fine, but it's like he's married.
Right.
He's got kids. He's a good father. He's a provider. He's a good husband. People are like, watch, we're going to find out he was fucking around his wife. I'm still waiting for that shoe to drop, and he's been dead for, as of this recording, 13 fucking days.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see the video, he was dead right away. Bullet hit the neck, head tilts, squirt, tilt, drop the microphone. It was fucking brutal. My daughter showed me. It was on TikTok. I was like, holy fuck.
So I have seen quite a few things on the internet I wish I could unsee. Stuff, kind of on the darker side of the web. You find yourself on a weird night, you're going down a rabbit hole. And then there were things like that 17-year-old kid in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Was it Kenosha?
Talking about Kyle Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse.
Okay.
So that was one. I woke up the next day and I was watching video and I saw everything, all of his shots. And when he shot the one guy who had the skateboard that was trying to hit him.
Shot him in the arm?
No, not that guy. The guy who shot him with the arm, I think, had a camera. He was like taking photos or whatever. He was right there. But it was just before that. The guy with the skateboard came up, hit him, and he shot him right in the chest. And then, he shot literally that guy with the camera right next to him, had his hands up, and shot him in the arm. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? You won't see that again, right? Like that stuff's only up for a short amount of time. And I thought about it, but I was on vacation and I really didn't want to do it. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I really need to see it at this point. Like, it's graphic. I can imagine
his kids were there.
Like.
His wife was there. They witnessed this shit. A crowd of people witnessed this shit. The world witnessed this shit.
And that's part of why I think there's so much outrage, is how horrific it was, how visible it was.
Again, people celebrating his death are like, oh, well, sure, he was a dad, but now his kids are better off. No, fuck you. Shut the fuck up.
That's terrible.
Shut the fuck up.
See, and that's the callous thinking that makes you think the other side is less than human, right? And that's when you start getting in that realm, is when you start ending up in Nazi Germany. And I know people are like, whoa, that's a big jump. No, it's not. They got to a level and a point with other human beings that they were vermin. You're seeing it now in Israel with the people in Gaza. We heard before this war started that roughly 50% of the population in Gaza are kids. How many people have died now, right? Children being shot.
Thousands.
Yes.
Bombs, hospitals.
Purposely shot. These snipers are going after them. You only get to that point when you don't even think of what you're shooting at is a human life over on that other side. You look at it as like rats at a dump. And that has to stop. When you dehumanize somebody like that, that's not okay. That's not how we get better.
And that's why I've become a Charlie Kirk fan, so to speak. I have respect for him, his integrity of being able to talk about his faith in a country full of people that don't necessarily like it, but to be respectful to people that did not share his same views and offer everyone a seat at the table to talk. He welcomed all. He supported all. And because of his death, I sat there and ruminated on this concept of, like you said, dehumanizing who you declare your opponent, because we all must have differences and enemies. And this is what I wrote on Facebook. First, you must recognize your enemy, then you must embrace them and make efforts to build a bridge. You humanize them and try to meet them in the middle by understanding their point of view. Through polite discourse, you work towards resolution. That is how you affect change while dealing with conflicting ideals. By Charlie's example, if I met somebody that was a neo-Nazi, and by my estimation of my quote, I have to find some common ground. We're both people.
Okay.
We both have families. We both care about people. But you're dehumanizing people. My goal would be to bring him to the middle where he sees people of color not as the mud people, not as the enemies, not as vermin, but as human beings, and how his beliefs have taken him down the wrong road. And in doing that, am I not following the example of Jesus Christ that I was taught as a Catholic child in school, K through 12?
Pretty much.
So as much as I don't like religion, I still recognize the importance of Jesus as an abstract, an idea for developing a moral compass. Here I am taking what I was raised on, and I found the middle ground is I respect it to a degree and can take from it. And we can all take from somebody that doesn't agree with us and find that common ground, find where we agree, and then try to work towards a compromise to meet each other in the middle. That's what I have learned the most from digesting all of his videos and his speeches and such. And as much as people want to demonize him, he was a husband, he was a father, he was an American, he might have been a Christian, he might have been a conservative, but he was a human being. And if you're celebrating the murder of a human being that is out there trying to get all of us on the same page to try to unite, but you got to pick the right parts of it, from the left, from the right, to the middle, compromise like a big fucking stew, and then you get a better America. And then other countries follow the example, and we get a better world because we're all humans. We're all peanuts on this same grand turd. That's my biggest thought process from all this, is you murdered an intelligent man that loved his family and wanted to help people. Yeah, I'm sorry if things he said pissed off others, but he wasn't out there advocating for all these things you say that he was. And if you still think he was, shut the fuck up with your finger pointing and go fucking down a rabbit hole on the internet watching the videos like I did. He's always like, prove me wrong? Fucking prove him wrong. Prove yourself wrong by proving him right when I tell you Charlie Kirk was not a bad person. He wasn't the perfect human being, but a lot of us should be more tempered like him and accepting and intelligent and eloquent and listen and talk and share. Does that seem fair enough?
I agree.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.